Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing Win4K4Suite. This is the Win4 product for the Elecraft K4. So I'm going to start off by going through all of the possible windows and give a brief overview of everything. I'm currently running an evaluation copy, but it is identical with the production release. All right. So as you can see right now, we've opened up a number of windows, one being the control panel for the Elecraft K4. We have this window called the club log spotting window. I'll get into a little more detail later. And we have two spectrum scopes here opened up, one for pan adapter A and one for pan adapter B. You can see they're on different bands at the moment. I'm on the broadcast band here and on 20 meters, which has got a surprising amount of activity for a Wednesday afternoon. All right, so we're going to start with the main control program and continue along the way. I'll add additional windows in. So this is the control program, and you'll notice that it doesn't look anything like the K4. But on the other hand, everything is organized in a logical fashion, and it's set up to be easy to use and not have to go through a ton of menus. So for example, here we have a band section, also supporting transverters. We have the RF in for radio A, because this is the K4D version, so I've got two receivers inside. So we have the ability to select antennas. You can see which, pick it from a drop down or just cycle through it. You have the ability to do a tune, for example, like that, a low power tune. We can do that, external tune and so forth. I guess it's doing the tune at the moment, yep. And excuse me, the attenuator, you can select all the different values there. And the preamp, I believe there's two of them. Okay, so you have an RF in section. You also have a section for the modes. You have something for CW data. You can, at any time, you can hover your mouse over buttons that require a little bit of explanation. So here's an example. You can right-click to toggle between auto spotting and manual spotting. Okay, that's an example of how that works. You then have the main receiver section here, and we can adjust the AF gain, RF gain, squelch, and we have the equalizer. If you right-click on the equalizer, you can toggle to the transmit equalizer. So you have both. In addition to the basic equalizer controls, you have the ability to set a preset. So you can, for example, have one for SSB, one for data modes and so forth, and you can assign different labels to it. Okay, of course, also have the AGC controls, and you toggle through them. You've got noise reduction, okay, and so forth. And this is all for receiver A. However, you also have it for receiver B, and I'll show you that in a second. So here's the basic controls for receiver B. You've got the gain, the RF gain, the audio frequency gain, RF gain, squelch. Again, you've got AGC and so forth. You can use it in diversity mode, or you can link the two VFOs. Okay, you have this button called B set. All right. When you press this, you'll notice that everything changes on the screen. We now have, for example, band B here, RF in for the B receiver, the mode for the B receiver, on and on, okay, and so forth. Everything changes according to the B receiver, okay. And that's different than the button works on the radio, but this makes more sense when you're using it in a computer. Okay, now we have a transmit section. Okay, you can select different ways of, you can turn on Vox, turn it off. Okay, you have the monitor, compression, and the TX monitor. These things can be changed to by right-clicking to mic, Vox gain, and Vox delay. Okay. All it takes is a right-click to change the controls. Okay. Now we have a section for the filters. Okay, we have the auto notch filter, we have a manual notch, and I do believe, no wait, okay, yeah, and we have the auto notch. And we have, in addition to the filters here, if you right click in this area, you can select the audio I/O. So you have the ability to select line in to be the USB or the line, and then you have level controls. Same thing for the line out. So this pretty well gives a overview of the control program. It's very logically done, but there's a lot of other options that are possible here. So we're going to go through some of them. In the tools menu, you have of course settings, but you also have radio menus. So this is the menu that's on the radio, and most of the stuff is included. There's a few things that aren't. Basically calibration commands, things you would do at the radio as opposed to remotely. They have not been put in just to keep people out of trouble, because some of the things add-on hardware and whatever shouldn't be done remotely. So anyways, you basically have the ability to get the current setting, and then set it to something. Okay, you can, for example, move it up and then click on set. Okay, if I click on get, it'll be at 19. Set. This is, if you want, you can refresh everything. It will go and it will get all of the information that's on here up to date. So it's very comprehensive. Okay, so I'm going to close that now. We have settings, of course. So we have the basic settings. For example, you could use the COM port, you could use the network. We have the ability to have speech synthesis in here, and it's a very comprehensive speech synthesis for the visually impaired, where all the buttons are announced correctly, and all the values are changed correctly. It is much better than using the tools that come with Windows, for example, or the third-party tools as well. Okay, you have the ability, of course, to connect to a KPA 1500 using the COM port, as well as the Cat 500. Okay, you can also use an SDR Play pan adapter if you wish, although I don't see all that much point, because Win4K4 has built-in pan adapters from the radio. Okay, beyond that, we have a section, for example, radio amp settings. Here's your RX equalizer preset levels. You can set them to what you want. Same thing for TX. You can tell the K4 to turn off the power on exit, but then keep in mind you will not be able to start it remotely. You would have to go ahead and actually press the button on the radio, or have a relay system which grounds momentarily one of the DB15 lines, the accessory line on the back of the radio. That's a whole other topic, and there's lots written about it on the web. We also have the ability to set the maximum power input on the various channels. So if you connect enable on a KPA setting, for example, it will never give more than a certain amount of power input. We have the ability to set all kinds of macros for the K4, the KPA, and the CAT. We also have macros for the scope functionality and function keys, F1 through F8. And a very simple tab on user preferences. But another thing that makes Win4K4 really interesting is that you have this third-party software and hardware capability. Now what that is basically you have 6 virtual radios. You have one connection to the K4, but you can have up to 6 connections to Win4K4 which will then properly sequence and make sure that the data gets to all the various virtual radios. So for example, you could set up auxiliary cat 1, for example, to be connected to DX Lab when you're remote. You can have port 2 set up to WSJT, FL Digity, and so forth. Now I understand that on the K4, you can go ahead and have multiple connections, either via the network or the 3 serial ports that it has. And it's basically the exact same functionality. However, if you're remote and you have software that does not connect to a serial port, then you're out of luck. But this will allow you to do it. In addition, you can connect up various hardware. In the hardware section, you can have a connection to a hardware device which basically listens to any of these types of information. For example, the VFO A and B frequency, or the auto information string that is generated by the radio. And this can be done over one of these virtual ports. There's a lot of flexibility here. You also have the, in addition, Win4K4 has a built-in HRD compatible server. So you can use HRD logbook.exe and have that integrated nicely with Win4K4. And various auto launch capabilities. Okay, so I think I've gone over pretty well most of the functionality with the control program. There is also a mini screen, but I'm not going to show you that, but it gives a lot of these controls in a tabbed layout. Okay. Next, we're going to be looking at the various windows. Okay, so I'm going to start with the pan adapter because it's going to be basically open for everything in the future. So let's just open it up. And here we go. This is the pan adapter, and I'm going to zoom in a bit. Okay, I'm going to turn off the spots for now. And what we have here is the pan adapter that's coming from the radio. And keep in mind that I'm currently operating remotely. Okay, I'm not operating, the radio's not connected to this PC. I'm doing everything over Ethernet. And there's a lot of functionality in the pan adapters. Of course, you have the function keys that I mentioned before. In tools settings, you can assign function keys, macros to these buttons. You have the various modes of operation of the pan adapter. You've got the noise blanker built in as well as the level. The averaging, so we can pop that down to much less, the spectrum goes faster, or much more. I like 4. Okay, this is completely customizable. There's a control panel that allows you to set various parameters, colors, and so forth to the way you like it, band edge markers, and so forth. You can have peak detection. The peaks basically show the highest signals in the last while. Okay, and there's a lot of functionality here in terms of zooming. You can, for example, just zoom into a small area with the mouse, and there you go. Okay, there's a lot of activity today on 20 meters, which is strange for a Wednesday morning. Now, this is the scope. You also have the same thing with pan adapter B, in which case, as it comes up here, you'll see I'm in a completely different band. This is actually the AM broadcast band. Excuse me. Well, I'm going to close that for now. Okay, and then we're going to continue to look through the menus here. We also have this window called Club Log Spots. Now, this is very popular in all my products. And basically, what it does, if you have a Club Log account, is to download your profile from Club Log. Now, what your profile in Club Log is a basically a list of all DXCs that have been worked, verified, or confirmed. Okay, and basically everything else is new. Okay, so in this Club Log screen, basically you can connect to any cluster you want and then apply your club log profile to it. So as you can see here, okay, the yellow ones are new. I haven't got Guyana yet. The greens are all worked. Okay, some others are they're worked, but they haven't been confirmed or verified yet, and so forth. And you can select band filters. Let's say I only wanted 20 meters. Click on Show DX, and only the 20 meter spots come up. Okay, or I can say I only want new. Okay, and we'll do that again. And only the new ones are going to come up. So very, very powerful, very useful, and certainly something that all my customers like very much. Okay, so that's the club log window. Now, of course, once you've got this on here, okay, once you have the club log window running, you can click on spots here in the spectrum and hello, spots, new, worked, confirmed, verified. We're going to just show them all, and they should start popping up here. And there we go. Spots start popping up on the display. I can just pan that over a little bit, maybe zoom in a little more. Whoops. Okay. And the various spots are shown on the screen. And you can click on the ones that you want here, and it should do a QSY. As you can see, I'm in the slide mode. If you were in tracking mode, then you would have, it would actually be doing a QSY to the center. Okay, so that's with the club log spots window. There's a lot of different features here, and besides that, we have a shortwave database built in. I'm going to close down club log and spots, and this one uses the BI database. For example, I'm going to pick what's a good band there, and I click on the band, and then what's on air, and then if I click in there, it's going to tune to the appropriate band, and I have to set this up correctly. What happened here? Antenna 1, there we go. Gonna pan. Okay. There's not much activity out on there, so I don't know, it should be a better place. Maybe that. Yeah, now we're starting to get some signals. I'm going to go a reset here, and once again we should see some spots. If we click on there, and there we go. Sorry for that little glitch. Okay, so that's basically a shortwave window, and we have a couple of other utilities here as well. We've got the terminal, okay, and this terminal allows you to send and receive CW. Okay, so if I'm off CW band here, I'm using the mouse to move over, and we want to send some CW. Let's go into CW mode and transmit. I'm going to just turn the power down all the way and transmit, and off it goes. It's transmitting. And you can hear it if you have the monitor on. Of course, I don't have that connected at the moment. Stop. Okay. One nice feature about this is that it supports a Win key. I don't have one on this computer at the moment, but you can set up a Win key, and where that can be very, very useful is when you're operating remote. You can actually use a paddle with Win4K4 and do CW remotely. Okay, and that's enabled by clicking remote paddle. Okay, and this works. It has a few limitations. For example, the character has to be entered before it will actually send it. So there's going to be some timing issues, especially for long characters like a 0. It's going to take a little bit of time for it to be sent, but people will understand you at the at the other end. It's not perfect, but very little of what is out there is perfect. Okay, so you have a lot of capabilities in the terminal. Besides being able to send and receive information, you also have basic database capabilities. So for example, you can have, I'll show you here, you can log to an ADIF file. You can log directly to HRD logbook, directly to DXKeeper and 3FJP, and log for OM. And this all works remotely. Okay, you do have to have the software installed on your computer that you take remotely. Okay, but it works perfectly fine. Okay, and we'll click OK. That's the terminal. Beyond that, we have a few more things. We have the CAT KPI control. Whoops, I have to connect, and I'm remote, so that's not going to work at the moment. Just brings up a point that there are utilities from Elecraft themselves to operate remotely with the KPA 1500, for example. So you can do it that way, and there's probably some other ways you can do it, but I won't get into this now. We have the mini pans, of course, just like on the radio, which will show the signal over a very narrow frequency range. And we have a couple of other windows here. We have an audio oscilloscope. Okay, right now it's hooked up to my microphone because I'm not using sound remotely from the K4 yet. At the time of making this video, remote audio is not available from the K4, but you can use utilities such as REM-Odd, which works quite well from my experience. So you do have the ability to monitor your audio via scope, as well as look at the spectrum. And the spectrum's kind of neat because, and it's going to be difficult to see here because there's really not that much audio output. But for example, you can enable the manual notch, okay, and you should be able to see the notch show up directly on the screen. So you can move it across, and you'll see there will be a notch. It's a little difficult to see here because I'm using the microphone and it's not showing same kind of resolution as normal. But basically it allows you to notch out the audio. Okay, sorry, it also has to be from the radio. The audio has to be from the radio and not from the microphone as I'm showing here. So basically that's it. That's an overview of Win4K4Suite. I know I went through very, very fast and probably stumbled at a few places, but it gives you an overview of things, and I invite you to try it. Thanks very much. VA2FSQ closing up.